we're good. All right.
How do you start streaming on YouTube?
I'm starting Yoshi Voss.
Oh, you guys are live. All right, ready? Go.
Final from Annapolis. Navy defeats Temple 38-11. Temple's longest road streak in the FBS that is currently active has now reached 16 consecutive games, with the last road win coming in 2021. They moved to 0-2.
That's right. Temple, another suffering defeat. This time to the hands of Navy. The Midshipmen defeat the Owls 38-11. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Lam Podcast. I'm Hayden Bandel. He is Liam Gianelli. And oh boy, Temple, we knew that Navy was going to run it up their gut, and that is exactly what they did, Liam. Like, for Navy, almost 300 rushing yards, 298 total rushing yards. Blake Horvath, the quarterback, had 122 of those. You look at that opposite side for Temple on the rush, 42 total yards on the run game. What did you see from that offense and the defense? I guess both parts of the line, nothing really went well at all. That game was over before halftime.
Yeah, the game was over in the first quarter after that botched snap in the back of the end zone that resulted in a safety. And I had my rant last night on the call towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter when we had nothing else to talk about, when the clock was just running down. But I slept on it. And I was like, you know what? Was that game really that bad? And I woke up saying, yeah, that game was
I was going to say, I didn't think you were going to change your mind.
Nothing was changing. I keep it a little interesting for the viewers. But seriously, I think the word of the week for that was unpreparedness. I don't think this team was prepared to go. I don't know, like I mentioned on the broadcast, the mental lapse that goes on the away games for this team. It's a 2.5-hour bus ride down there. Maybe 2 hours if you get lucky. You're not flying across the country. You're not going to Texas where there's an hour difference, whatever, jet lag, whatever you want to say for an excuse. You're on a bus. You have a week 2 conference game. You should be ready. This is exactly what happened last year when they pulled starters out against Miami. Get ready for Tulsa. And they lost that game by 3 scores.
Against Tulsa, yep. I was going to say the same thing.
I'm so confused. And the first thing I want to go to is actually not the game, but the press conference after.
We do have a couple clips from that too, but go ahead.
We'll play them when we get the need to for context. But I was very interested by what Stan Drayton was saying because it looks like he's not putting a lot of responsibility on himself.
Yeah.
He's pulling it on some of the players, the other coaches too, which is a huge no-no when it comes to week 2. And I'm hearing the same repetitive crap as well. You know, this is a podcast. I'm allowed to voice my opinion from a Temple student, but it's Temple tough, next man up, blah, blah, blah. We're not putting it all together yet. It's the same thing, just spewed differently. And it's frustrating to watch. Horvath looked like a Heisman player out there yesterday. And you would have known because Temple's defense looked like a bunch of high schoolers. I'm pretty sure my team would go out there and beat them.
Yeah, and it was shocking from that, too, because I know, like, after the Oklahoma game, like, a lot of people, myself included, looked at that defense, especially maybe not in the rushing game, but the secondary looked good. But even then, Navy had some great play calls. We saw Eli Heidenreich got wide open, like, just had to walk into the end zone for a 31-yard touchdown. It wasn't good, and they also weren't disciplined. They knew that they had to be disciplined with their eyes. The cameraman kept getting faked out, but so was the Temple defense, too. It's ridiculous. And some of the pre-snap penalties on special teams, you have a guy offsides. That cannot happen. That simply cannot happen, especially in a conference game like you said, because every year it's the same thing, right? What's the goals? Win a conference championship. And every year, for the past 2 seasons at least, the first game that they play in conference play, they just look completely unprepared, right? And this is a team, Brian Newberry and the Navy team, that's one of the few teams that Stan Drayton has beaten in his career here at Temple, and still, second time against Brian Newberry as a head coach. And Temple just looks like they are completely outperformed.
Yeah, and talk about the option offense, like you just mentioned, a lot of move-ups on offense. Temple's defense just looked jittery from the start. Like, they kept moving around. A lot of these linebackers guys just stay put into place and not move around with the running backs or people that move in motion for Navy just because the field opens up like that, like the touchdown by Heidenreich in the middle. No one was even near him, probably 15, 20 yards. He could really lollygag into the end zone if he wanted to. But also, Temple offense did nothing.
Yeah.
They played with no urgency at all, going down by 2 scores early when I think it was 15-0. They ran the ball up the middle, draw. I think it was another toss to the outside, and the third down was just a curl route, broken up. But Forrest Brock still looked really uncomfortable out there. And it's something I keep reiterating on the broadcast that when are they going to be comfortable make a change? Last year, Stan Drayton was pretty intolerant with Juwan Mathis' mistakes, and he
2
was
years
pulled
ago.
2 years ago, and EJ Warner got the shot. And look, that worked out. I wouldn't say worked out great for the win-loss record for Temple, but for EJ Warner, it worked out pretty well individually. But now you're 0-2, you're head back home, 3 straight home games, Coastal Carolina, Utah State, Army. 3 winnable games. I hate to see that guy, but maybe you need a new quarterback under center going those weeks in the link.
See, I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet. What from yesterday can you pull out the pros and Forrest Brock besides stat padding down points?
Because I don't want to keep switching quarterbacks. Do you know Evan Simon's going to be it, or you're just switching it because you just want to switch it? You want to see someone else?
I'm not sold on the idea of Evan Simon and Tyler Douglas either, just because how poor Forrest Brock's been playing. How bad do they have to be during camp to not say? I know the playbook is known for Forrest Brock, but it doesn't look like the playbook is open for Forrest Brock because it doesn't seem like they trust him to shots down the field.
Like when we look at his stats from yesterday, a lot of it is just overblown. Like 30 for 46, but 277 passing yards on 30 completions. I'm not a math major, but that's like less than 10 yards. But yeah, like a lot of them were checkdowns, and I know it looked like him and Dante Wright had a real connection, right? 14 of those 46 pass attempts were intended for Dante Wright. And
9.2 yards, Hayden. Repeating. Thank you, producer Nick.
Thank you, Nick Barr. But yeah, like Dante Wright, it looked like he and Forrest Brock had a real connection, right? He ended up catching the only touchdown, had just over 100 yards. It was good to see him bounce back after a really rough game at Oklahoma. But a lot of it also was just like in garbage time, right? Like that touchdown was in garbage time.
It was a good throw. I'll give him that.
Yeah, no,
that was a nice deep fader out by Dante Wright out of the slot and moved down the field to catch it. That was a good catch.
It looked like towards the end of the game, because it was so out of reach, like he kind of like was able to sit back and relax and just like play football. But like Stan Drayton said, like he like those jitters that he had at Oklahoma, right? Because everyone's like, oh boy, here he is, SEC school, here we go. Like doesn't matter anymore. Like Stan said, that's a week 1 excuse. After that, it's done, right? You have to go and you're playing football. This is a conference game. This is meaningful, right? This is not even just like a non-conference opponent. This is a game that's going to matter for the rest of the season, and it doesn't. And it's a game that it was going to affect how I viewed the entirety of the season, honestly. Like if Temple would have won yesterday, my viewpoint is completely different. I'm positive. I'm saying, okay, I think they might win more than 3 games, which is what I predicted originally to start the season. Now, I'm looking at it and I'm like, 2 is going to be a real rough stretch to get. But just overall, like, that is a huge game because, like we said, they looked unprepared. They looked like they were really hurting themselves, too, right? It wasn't anything too much that Navy was doing, but it was bad play calls defensively on the coaches. Missed tackles left and right. How many times did they just break tackles? They had 2 plays, Liam, that lasted 18 seconds.
That changed,
2 different
that
drives.
The whole shape of the game.
That was when the game was completely out of reach. 2 plays, 2 different drives, a combined 18 seconds, a combined 14 points on the board.
The Horvath touchdown right there in that second play, I think it was him. It was a QB draw up the middle, and no one can make a tackle on him. Everyone was tackling low, his ankles even going high. A lot of missed tackles, missed execution was the name of the game also yesterday. But also, I want to go to the point where I said last week, burn the tape versus Oklahoma. It's hard to burn the tape here when it's a conference game, and you have to watch to learn how to get better. Also, you work a football team inside and out, and that's through the trenches. The O-line only let up 1 sack yesterday, but the pressure rate I would love to see on that because it looked like Forrest Brock was getting swallowed up every time. That's why you had to keep rolling out and stuff and extend the play. He made a couple good throws downfield, but they were neglected with penalties. Also, again, undisciplined plays by Stan Drayton's team. Yep. 8 penalties. A lot of them came on the O-line, like you've mentioned before. Some defensive penalties. Navy only had 2. It was a pass interference call and unnecessary roughness towards the sideline at one point. But that was early in the game. After that, they were clean as it could be. Also, the D-line, 0 sacks. No one even got back there. I think Horvath, the 12 pass attempts he had, 9 pass attempts, he had the pocket wide open. Again, that's part of the option offense, seeing where the D-line shifts as well. That's not on them, sending the house. But it's just beyond frustrating to watch, especially there. He's going to miss a couple of games. I mean, he walked off. He could be fine. At that point in the game, you just pull him down 3 scores. It was just a lot of questions moving forward. I don't think we've got any answers. Maybe that DJ Wardbury is that guy that Jordan McGee has been the past few years, the lone bright spot in that defense, can play for himself at this point if he wants to make it to the NFL.
Yep, he had 10 tackles yesterday, so he definitely looked good. Andres Keaton had 7 on the defensive end. But yeah, like you said, like, no sacks, but I don't look at that as like, oh my God, like they didn't get to him once, because like there's only 12 pass attempts. Like, you can only do so much, especially when they're expecting the run. Now, the fact that they couldn't stop it is a completely different story.
So when do you determine that? Let's say next week Coastal Carolina passes the ball 35 times and Temple gets to him once.
Then that's an issue. Yeah.
Again, but I have to look at the pressure rate. We don't have that in front of us in the live stats. You just see sacks and stuff. Because that also says, all right, they're getting there. Now, Coastal Carolina is just maybe doing dump downs, dip downs. But again, Navy was pushing the ball down the field. They weren't just checking it down. They're trying to get towards the sidelines to really work. Middle of the field was that only touchdown play. But again, that was just safety falling down right there. Keaton did not stay with Heinrich, and that was, again, just a dagger.
Yeah. So that was a dagger for the game. But was it a dagger for the season? Let's see what Stan Drayton had to say.
Giving up on this football team. I believe that we have the right stuff in place, and we just need to put it to execution. And that's going to be on the coaches. That's going to be on the players. And we'll grow with the season, but these are some things that we're doing right now. It's just, you just got to find a way to be a more disciplined football team in a lot of respects.
So he's not giving up on this football team. Liam Gianelli, are you?
I gave up before the season even started. You know this. I made the Haspel prediction that this team would go 0-12 after watching the Cherry and White game. I watched this team not be able to move even down the field against their own defense. And that was with 3 different quarterbacks trying to get in there. The running back game, like I mentioned, it's like Russian roulette sometimes. You can roll the die out, and it's like, all right, whoever number lands on, you're in. It looked like we got a lot more Antoine Littleton out there, more than Joe Quez Smith, again, who had his good stretch last year, but also some issues off the field. Kind of neglected him keeping that progress moving as a true freshman. But
he just had 1 touch yesterday.
Stan Drayton, as a running backs coach, has yet to develop that position. And I understand he's coached at elite schools where there's been better talent and stuff. There's
still no excuse for them to be this bad.
I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse with the NIL because I think that's the root of all the issues. But, again, the O-line, that starts with the run game. If no one's opening up any holes, gaps, it's hard to design any other good run plays. And there were some more unique play calls out there with the RPO, the play action and such, maybe even the delayed screen pass, which opens up the field a little bit more. So I was a little positive of that with Langsdorff's play calling. But just still, nothing was resulted from that. And I think that's also a big issue when you're down many scores and you still can't find the end zone. I think Navy Navy always plays tough because that's what their mentality is. It didn't give Temple anything easy. That's why that throw to Dante Wright was good, and it was contested in the corner of the end zone. It wasn't just he was in the open, no one was near him. But a week to get things right, and I don't think they will going to Coastal Carolina. So I think Tyler Blankenship and James Urban, who are on the call next week, are going to be calling another loss.
Yeah, I never circled that Coastal Carolina game as a win for me personally, but it's interesting because like just talking about like the run game and the line down in the trenches, like Temple, the past few seasons it feels like they can never stay healthy on the line offensively.
Yeah, but how much does a difference does Luke Watson make on that line? How much is the difference does Zay Baines make in the receiving game? How much is the difference does Juwan Black in defense make? These are not star players that elevates the team in any of the position groups. They're not.
Yeah, I don't think it changed anything, but I think it's good now, like, the first 2 weeks of the season, like, they've had continuity, right? Like, it's been the same starting line the past 2 weeks. No one's been hurt outside of Luke Watson, who didn't play last week. So I think it's just good to get that continuity. But like you said, this is a run game that has been awful in the first 2 years of Stan Drayton era. And it proved to be the same case yesterday, the same case against Oklahoma. I get it, they're playing behind, so they're not running it as much. But even the first few drives, like, nothing is going right for Temple. When we look at the first drive, right? E.J. Wilson rushes for 0 yards. Like, it's 3 and outs, and it's just not doing anything, right? Second drive, after Temple gets the ball back, Forrest Brock runs it for 1 yard. E.J. Wilson rushes it for none. Like, at some point, something has to get going, and I just don't know why they have such a struggle with Stan Drayton and his knowledge, especially at that position, why there's just nothing that can get going for that team.
Because there's 11 players on the field, Hayden. One player really can't make the difference unless you're a 5-star first-round pick. go in the NFL. Everyone has got to play their role in an 11-man offense. It's 11 guys playing for each other. It's just not one.
Well,
I keep saying that.
That's a question that I raised about Stan Drayton because, right, this is a guy, we talk about his experience in the run game with the running back position, but he's a guy that has not once, right, he's been coaching football for decades. Not once has he held a coordinator position at whether it's the NFL, the college level. He's coached in the NFL with running backs. He's coached at college with running backs, but he's never held a coordinating position. And that circles back to his relationship with Arthur Johnson. They both came over from Texas, where Drayton was the running backs coach, and that's why he was hired here eventually. But it is a question to be raised, right? This is a guy, he's never overseen a full offense. But now that he does have everything in his control, things have just not gone good at all.
Yeah, it's interesting what Stan Drayton really does on the sideline. That's a good question to point out, actually. I really didn't think about that just because there's no coordinator experience there. So what does he say in the headset during offense and defense? Does he just let Langsdorff and Everett Weathers call that? Because usually a head coach voices his opinion on certain plays. Is he the one to just make the penalty calls, tough decision? Is he just out there to be a stand-in dummy as a head coach? Is he there to just give the AI-generated responses to the press conference and continuously try and make people believe in him? No, because the answer is continually getting stale and people are pulling out on his team. I literally saw a Twitter account yesterday, sorry for the sniffles, allergy season, that I can't repeat it because it's a little insensitive what he posted, but these Temple accounts are officially going to the point where, like, I'm done being a fan. Look, they're memes accounts. People are calling for Icy Vert to come coach his team and stuff. If you don't know, he's an NCAA guy. It took him like 30 years to win a national championship, and that's who they're bringing to practice too.
Yeah,
like that's the guy you're bringing.
We
to
talked
practice.
about that last week. Yeah,
so that's officially where this Temple program is at right now. They're statistically the worst team in the FBS. You can argue that.
I don't know who ranks that. I did see that they were ranked.
They're below Kennesaw State. The Kennesaw State Owls are better than the Temple Owls. This is a team that over a decade ago was hosting a college game day on Halloween night. 75,000 people in the link against Notre Dame. We're never going to have the chance to do that because we're leaving soon, Hayden. The last time they won an away game was our freshman year of college. The last time they won a conference away game was we were 10th grade. We were sophomores in high school.
It was against UConn. They're not even in the conference anymore.
Yeah, they play UConn. Nick Parr's going to that game over there. Nice. And yeah, that game doesn't even matter because UConn's independent. So if they win, that means, oh, great, that's one win.
Right.
I don't think they're going to win that game. That's just how head-scratching is that for this team to be at this point. They were just below sea level. It's just, they're at rock bottom. Don't know if there's any chance of getting back up this season. Again, we talked about last week. If they win 2-3 games, great. What does that do? Nothing.
Yeah, that definitely raises a much bigger question.
I would love to watch the film. So I wish I had the idea just to see what really goes on the 22-man, those type of films, because you learn a lot more about football, especially when I watch draft stock for different players and stuff. Especially even watching Jordan McGee last year, you could tell he's a lot better prospect than when we call the games or watch the games because there's a lot more going on from that type of sky view. But just, if the only positive we're going to take away is just individual performances, then what's the point of even...
Yeah, no, like this is a team game. You want to see your team perform. If you're a Temple fan, you want to see the Temple do good. You don't just want to see, all right, like, yeah, we have a couple guys in the NFL, and I know, like, the athletic administration is high on doing that, right? We see all the promotion for guys like Jordan McGee, guys like David Robinson, guys that have been here.
They've had NFL talent. There's nothing to say that. There's a track record. It might not be the greatest of our college schools, but there's players on this team that have succeeded. Well, might succeed. We're going to see them in action today, actually.
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock, 4:25, McGee, David Moore Robinson stuff. I mean, Ravonde Rigby's on the Patriots practice squad. He might see some game action there. So that's fine. There's been lone bright spots. It might see even this season as the season progresses, but still that's not doing anything because they're not coming back and giving towards money to help towards fund the program.
Yep, and I would rather have guys that, let's say they don't make the NFL, right? But there's a full depth chart, right? Not just, you have this one stud who's going to get drafted on defense and another guy that might get signed, but everyone else is like not going to be playing football in a few years. I'd rather have a bunch of guys that are mediocre and that are maybe sub or above what a average player is, than have a bunch of guys in the NFL. Just as a Temple student, as someone that wants to see the team perform well, that's what I would much rather see.
Yeah, the subpar is also that tight end room. That's like, that's another bright spot I would take away. But that's Forrest Brock's go-to options, or Reese Clark, Della Pascal, Landon Morris. And they're not even excelling the score sheet as well. It's hard to just keep talking about this team when there's not a lot of good things. And also the press conference, some of the takeaways and their responses as well. You could try and maybe draw on constantly think Forrest Brock, the ball's in my hands. I don't know if you can take that either way. Okay, is that a good thing? You're owning up to your mistakes, or now you're.
That's what it sounded like. It sounded
I took it the other way.
Really?
That he's the one calling the plays and he's not taking responsibility. He's gonna do what he wants to do. That's how I viewed it. I don't know if you have the audio pulled up for that.
I will.
And let the viewers dictate what they think. But you think one way, I think a different way. I said in the post-game breakdown yesterday, whatever that means, in that sense of where, all right, if he wants to think that way, then go for it, be quarterback. If you want to keep resulting 3 turnovers a game where the game's already lost, then, again, I don't know what the message is, what Stan Drayton's going to say to this team come Monday. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those locker rooms and in practice and see what's really going on, if he's really having influence at different position groups. But it's hard to just comprehend what's really going on, where the root of all of this is at this point of the season, because now the transfer portal, everything's closed. You got to work with the people you got on the roster. He still says we're going to figure out where everyone's position is going to be. 2 weeks in, that should be a week 1 decision.
Yeah.
Again, players go down. I understand that, but that's also before the season. Players should be filled in the depth chart.
That's like you said earlier. That's Coach Drayton.
So if you want to
blaming his players, not blaming himself, not blaming.
That's a really bad look.
Yeah.
I'm Arthur Johnson, who was standing there yesterday.
Yeah.
Was watching the thing whole intently. Don't know where he went after. Went to talk to Stan, just last thing, whatever. I would be like, dude, you take accountability. I know you. We're friends. I understand that. But if anything, that should be the point speaking down more. I hired you to do this. Take responsibility, because it's on him.
Yeah,
team.
no,
it's 110% on him. Yesterday.
And even if it's not on him, that is not something that you say out in public. You want to blast the players out in the locker room, go do it. But I don't think that's something that you say
that's how
to the public.
Morale goes down.
Yep, that is not something that should be said. The players are going to listen to that. They're going to hear, and they're going to say, he's blaming me, but he's putting me in the wrong spot. It's not a good look for Temple overall.
Even the vague questions yesterday in the press conference, players seemed optimistic about going forward. Maybe that's just them being told they had to say that from other people. But if I was a player on the press conference yesterday, I'd be like, yeah, I don't even know what to say.
It sucks.
I don't even know what I would say at that point. Obviously, it comes to me in the moment, but nothing can prepare me to go out there after following a loss like that.
And I know we talked about the road losing streak, right? 16 consecutive road losses. But also, when we look back at these players now, half these guys haven't even been here for all the losing that we've seen covering this team for the past 4 years. They really haven't. I think that road losing streak, I don't think it's really been brought up yet to any of the coaches or the players. But it
has to be. It has to be brought up. There's no way that's something that's just ignored. So now, what does Stan Drayton move to 0-16 on the road?
No, not him personally. It's just, that dates back to Rod Carey.
But what's Drayton's record for away games?
I mean, he's been here.
He played 4 away games a year, so probably moved to 0-9.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I know, technically.
We argued last week was the biggest game of Stan Drayton's career, and he went out there and laid a fat goose egg.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the board wasn't 0 points, but he went out there totally unprepared, looked like he was not ready for it all, looked like a high school team, maybe Imhotep charter or whatever, could have went out there and ran over Temple. And that's not a compliment for Imhotep. If anything, that's a dig at Temple's defense and overall the team. Haynes doing the statistician over there with the math. We should have
they've lost 12 road games since they've been here. One of them was the one at Navy that he technically didn't coach at. So you want to say 0-11, 0-12, whatever it is.
He was out with COVID that game, right?
It wasn't COVID. It was an illness.
He was okay. Yeah,
he was sick.
He was on the sidelines.
Yeah, no, he was on the sidelines. So 0-11 when he's present, 0-12 on the road since he's taken over as head coach.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely not ignored. Again, I don't know what the mental lapses are on the road. If anything, I'm more amped up to play on the road to shut everyone up that's there.
Yeah. But
it's not like the home games you're having 65,000 people
there.
But
it's also not like they're winning at home either, right? Who have they beat at home too? I think Zach Silverstein was mentioning it to me yesterday.
They beat Akron.
Could have been someone else. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Who have they even beaten at home, right?
Norfolk State.
And two FCS schools, Norfolk State and Lafayette, have been 2 of Stan Drayton's 6 wins that were at home. The other 4, teams like Akron, Navy, South Florida, and that South Florida coach ended up getting fired after they lost that game, and I forget the fourth one off the top of my head.
USF hung with Alabama last night.
Yeah.
UMass.
Yeah.
That's not a great win.
No.
It's these bottom feeders who are actually probably better than Temple right now in the current FBS rankings, wherever that guy makes it up. But still, it's hard to avoid the stats and the numbers because it's the guy that's making the rankings is 100% right. Temple is the worst Division I FBS program right now. But Hayden, question for you: was that the worst Temple loss you watched last night?
No.
What is? Okay, go.
It's even if it's conference, I would still say I don't think so. I think it's either the UCF game where they lost they dropped 70 on them, or it was Tulsa last year. But I think it's definitely in the top 3 for sure since the last 4 years that I've been covering this team and looking at them.
It's not like they're getting in shootouts. It's not like their offense is scoring points, the defense can't get off the field. It's the opposite now. It's not. It's everybody just working together.
that's what happens when you lose.
The special teams is not great either.
No, yeah.
They had an offsides call in the 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Dante Adams punting at least 35 yards down the field.
That's where I can hear the frustration though. Like when Drayton, when he blames play, like I see what he's saying. Like you can't do that.
He said
but they still don't say it out.
He said they faced adversity early. He said they didn't like the look in the guy's eyes.
Yeah.
From that early on, the team checks out in the first quarter. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. It was horrible.
It's hard to motivate at that point already. 0-2. I feel like the white flag might have already been raised. Obviously, we're gonna get some more answers going into this week from the press conference tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would love to see what's asked, and he watches the film. He always says that I'm gonna watch the film.
Watch
the film.
Yeah.
Hard to see what's different from the film than it is from what you take away yesterday. Is maybe someone else played better on the O line, the D line. We just couldn't tell from our view. That's again why I like watching it. But again, I think they need a fresh face at quarterback now. I think they need a change. I do. I really think. I think that does change things because let's say Evan Simon goes out there and extends the ball more down the field. Always with the running game and stuff, but because I think teams are just not respecting Forrest Brock at all, and that's why they're just setting the house. Again, that Oklahoma last week, I mentioned, jokingly said, who cares about who's starting quarterback? Oklahoma doesn't prepare for that. They're just running their defense out there. So maybe a quarterback change does elevate the game more. E.J. Warner did it. Why can't someone else do it now?
Yeah. So Temple falls to 0-2. What was your overall reactions, thoughts on going to the Navy football stadium? I know you were there last year, but just overall thoughts.
Well,
on
last year we went to a basketball arena, and Temple men's basketball won that, so that was a more fun game to cover. It was cool in Annapolis, I won't lie. It was cool seeing like residents right outside. The house is right out the stadium. Like you could see it from the press box. People out there were like charging people to park in the driveways, $30, which is pretty cheap actually. It's a cool tradition, them doing push-ups after every touchdown, the cannon being fired off, which scared me every time.
Oh, dude,
I feel bad being on the field.
I was going to say the same, because I was on the field when Temple was there 2 years ago, and every time, even after I knew it was coming, I would always, like, get jump scared and
the game was,
freak out.
I won't lie, the food wasn't great. It's never good there. I'm excited to go back to the Link press box and get some food there, but it was cool in Annapolis. I obviously wish I could be, like, stayed there longer when I was a fan, tailgate a little more, like going to West Point. Excuse me.
Man, you got the hiccups or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great. I'm also nervous about the Giants playing in an hour. But overall, it was a cool experience. I'm glad I got to go with you, Andrew Mayo, and Zachary Silverstein. The car ride was fun and stuff. But I think that was my only positive takeaway was the experience, not really watching the game, which really sucks to say.
What was your 40-yard dash time? I know you did it. We both did it on the field.
You got 5.9. I got like 6.1.
All right, so
and I was in khakis and not my running shoes.
So was I.
Yeah, so I can be maybe like 4 or 5 seconds quicker, which isn't that bad.
Maybe we'll do it next week.
Yes, Nick.
4 or 5 seconds quicker.
Oh, like milliseconds, my bad. Yeah, I'm hitting a 1.1 40-yard dash. My apologies. See, it's Sunday, my brain doesn't work. I'm not a math major either. But I had a great time with all of you. And now heading back home, down to Link for 3 straight weeks. Going to be interesting where this team goes from here.
Yep, Temple will be home for the home opener next week at Coastal Carolina. We'll have live coverage for you on WHIP. That kickoff is set for 2 o'clock. James Urban and Tyler Blankenship on the call. Liam will be writing that game.
You're producing.
I'll be producing. Thank you to our producer today, Nick Parr, for producing.
He's with us going forward.
Yeah, he's with us going forward for the Band and Lamb podcast. We will catch you guys next week on Sunday afternoon. But thank you for watching this episode.